Welcome listeners to Red Hunt, where I delve into the wild and wonderful world of relationships and share captivating stories from Reddit. Am I the antagonist for uninviting my sister and her husband from my son's wedding reception for making a 90-day fiancé joke? I am a 55-year-old man. Last week my son James, 28, got married to his partner Zara, also 28. They were together for about 9 years before tying the knot and met in university. Zara, who is from South Asia, has been living here for approximately 9-10 years. She has become a beloved member of our family, especially since her own parents are living abroad. Our family is of white ethnicity. My sister Beth and her husband Tom have always been decent to Zara and James. However, last year they discovered that Zara is not British Asian, but rather a foreign national. This misunderstanding is understandable as Zara has a British-sounding name, and there is a large South Asian community in the country. Beth and Tom began making jokes about visa marriages and referred to a US TV program called 90-Day Fiancé. These comments were made when I was not present, and James and Zara chose to ignore them. However, during a family dinner after the wedding, Beth and Tom again brought up the topic of visa marriage. They made a joke about Meghan Markle and then stated that they would only accept their own daughter marrying a foreigner after the person attained British citizenship. James and Zara were taken aback by these remarks as they did not expect such comments at a wedding event. I immediately uninvited Beth and Tom from the reception without delay. My wife and I are covering the costs of the reception since Zara's parents paid for the wedding, and James and Zara were both pleased with the uninvitation. Beth and Tom are now playing the victim, claiming that they were only concerned for James and had witnessed the negative consequences of horror visa marriages on TV. I informed them that their intentions mean nothing, and they are now spreading the word to our other family members that we are bullying them. Some of them took their side, suggesting that they were simply trying to be helpful and that I should reconsider inviting them back. I refuse to do so because I believe their reasoning is flawed. First of all, the American visa marriage TV shows do not apply to the UK, as getting a spouse visa is much more difficult here. The concerns raised about 90-Day Fiancé are irrelevant because obtaining citizenship after just a few months of marriage has never been possible. According to James, Zara has spent around £25,000 sterling over the years for visa renewals using her own money. It is not as simple as just getting married. Secondly, and James himself would agree, Zara is more qualified than him. She comes from a wealthy background, has a doctorate, and earns £50,000 sterling per year. She does not need our son's sponsorship and would easily qualify for citizenship on her own within a couple of years. In response, Beth and Tom claim that they were unaware of the differences in visa processes. However, my point is, why insult her at her own wedding if that was the case? We are now receiving a lot of comments suggesting that we should forgive them because they were trying to help. However, my wife and I remain firm in our refusal. James and Zara are content with my decision, but others are now making comments suggesting that their concerns were reasonable, even though they objectively never were. Am I the one in the wrong here? Beth and Tom crossed a line by making offensive comments about Zara's nationality and marriage at her own wedding. Their ignorance about visa processes does not excuse their behavior, and your decision to uninvite them from the reception was justified. Am I the antagonist for being more blunt than soft when my deal was confiding in me? My daughter-in-law Tasha, 40 years old, has been married to my son Nick, 42 years old, for 7 years. Nick has 3 children from his previous marriage to my late daughter-in-law AmITheA. My granddaughters are currently 16 and 15 years old, and my grandson is 13. Nick and Tasha's relationship progressed quickly. They met 9 months after Emma's passing and got married 6 months later. Despite moving fast, they made sure to communicate with the children and reassure them that Tasha was not meant to replace Emma. From what I observed, the transition was smooth, and the kids quickly grew to like Tasha. Tasha and Nick added 2 more sons to the family, and everything seemed to be going well. 3 weeks ago, Tasha opened up to me about struggling with some stuff related to the older 3 children. I asked her to elaborate, and she explained that she had assumed by now she would be on an equal footing with Nick and Emma in the eyes of the kids. Although the kids love her, she felt like she was the second choice. Tasha also shared that she was finding it difficult with Emma still being talked about and missed frequently. She made it clear that she never wanted the kids to forget about Emma, and she didn't claim them as her own. However, after being in their lives for 7 years and having played a significant role in their upbringing, she expected their family dynamic to resemble a more traditional nuclear family. She left shortly after expressing these feelings, and although I considered saying something, she seemed rushed to get home. I thought maybe she just needed to voice her concerns and that would be the end of it. Then, on Sunday, Tasha confided in me again, and her words were nearly identical to what she had said before. I inquired about the origin of her feelings, and she mentioned that it stemmed from something my grandson wrote about his mom. He expressed sadness about not growing up with his mom and feeling lucky to have a stepmom who treated him well, unlike other stepparents. This struck a chord with Tasha and made her realize that, despite the years that had passed, she would always come second to the children's memories of their mom, especially when it came to my grandson. She shared that she couldn't find contentment with her role as second best and wondered if this would be the case in another 10 years. I responded by telling her that it was highly likely because you cannot compete with the love of a parent, and Emma was an exceptional mother. I assured her this didn't mean she wasn't an extraordinary stepmother. However, she needed to understand that to the older 3 children, she was their stepmother. I explained that while it's understandable for her hopes to have gotten carried away, she must realize that the kids will always love and miss their mom, wishing she was still with them. I reassured her that this wasn't an insult to her but rather the reality of the family she married into. Tasha's mood shifted from sadness to annoyance instantly. She asked me where my compassion had gone and criticized me for making things worse for her. Am I the asshole? It sounds like you were trying to be honest and provide some perspective to Tasha. While she may be feeling hurt and insecure, it's important for her to understand the reality of the situation and manage her expectations as a stepmother. It's not easy, but it's also not fair for her to expect to replace the memories and love that the kids have for their late mother. Am I the antagonist for assuming my friends were paying for my birthday meal? This happened a few days ago, and I have been conflicted since. Before my birthday, 5 of my friends asked if I would like to get some food and drinks out for my birthday event. I said sure, where would we go? Mike said, anywhere you like. I suggested a nearby steakhouse that I have been to in the past. We all met each other there. Mike was quick to order himself a drink and started talking about appetizers. I said I don't normally eat them, but I will try one. We ordered our mains and we all had ordered the steak and another round of drinks, at which point Adam also ordered a bottle of champagne. I said you guys don't need to get me champagne, it's only my birthday, nothing too special. When Mike said lighten up birthday boy, have some fun, I did think maybe I was being too uptight. And since I was being treated, it's not too big of a problem, I may as well celebrate. Mike started arguing with the table next to us because they threw a French fry at him. I tried to explain to him that they weren't even eating French fries, he had them earlier and must have dropped one. Then he stood up and started swearing at the table. There was a child at the table, about 3 years old, who looked absolutely shocked. I told Mike to sit down and he started pushing me, saying, "That man threw something at me." The waiter came over and said there had been complaints against us. Mike just silently drank his beer and Adam started arguing with the waiter, saying the other table started it. The waiter said we needed to pay up and leave in the next few minutes before there was a problem. I said, "Thanks guys, do you want me to help pay?" At which point they all looked at me and Adam said, "You're the birthday man, right? You got money." I said, "I thought you were inviting me because it's my birthday as a present." Adam chuckled a bit and said, "Weren't you the one that chose where we were going, bud?" Adam got up to leave and said, "Let's go boys." I started to worry, I thought they were pranking me or something and said, "You can't really go." Then Adam started to walk away. So I grabbed him a bit and he looked at my hand and said, "Get your hand off me, pal." I just looked at him and said, "Why are you acting like this, man?" They walked out and left me with the bill. I tried to explain to the waiter about the situation. He said, "Someone's gotta pay, and your table was causing a lot of trouble tonight." I tried to apologize, but he just looked at me like I was dirt. So I just paid. It was most of my money. I spoke to my friends after and they just acted like nothing happened. I said, "You guys need to pay me back," and I got several replies along the lines of, "It's already over, leave it." So I haven't spoken to them in a few days. I received a few messages asking me if I am still crying or if I grew up yet. I haven't replied, and I want to know if I was wrong to assume that I wouldn't be paying. The whole situation had me feeling weird. Dude, your friends seriously pulled a dick move on your birthday. They invited you out and then expected you to foot the bill just because you chose the place? That's messed up. Don't feel bad for feeling weird about it, you have every right to be pissed off. Am I the antagonist for suing my mom's friend's son? My mom, in her 60s, has a family friend in his 60s who has a son around my age, in his 30s. We have known their family for over 10 years and I can confidently say that his son is not doing well in life. He is a dishonest person and has stolen from both family members and friends. Unfortunately, because of our parents' friendship, nothing is being done about his behavior. There was a period when, foolishly, I allowed him to live with me after he had attended a rigorous rehab program. It turned out to be a mistake, to say the least. During this time, I was arrested for something unrelated. At that point, I only had $500 to my name and couldn't afford to pay my own bail. So I had to ask my roommate to contact my parents and have them transfer the money to get me out. However, he deceitfully lied about the amount, resulting in my parents transferring twice the necessary funds. I discovered this when my parents asked me to repay them for the bail, stating the higher amount. Eventually, this issue was resolved between our parents, as we were both struggling college students at the time. After our living arrangement, we went our separate ways. Since then, I have started a successful business taking care of people's pets. I have left behind the partying and drinking lifestyle from my college days. I have never used drugs or engaged in any recreational drug activities, as it is not my preference, and my family has a history of addiction, making me susceptible to dependency. Recently, I learned that he got into trouble with his parents and falsely accused me of being involved in drug dealing. Shockingly, people believed his accusations. I want to clarify that I have never used drugs in my entire life. This false claim has negatively impacted my business, leading to the loss of several clients who believed his lies. My mother, who is currently in poor health, is begging me not to sue him because he happens to be her doctor and fears the consequences it may have on her medical care. I have made it clear to her that I will not allow him to defame my character. I believe I have a legitimate legal case, and perhaps this situation will serve as a wake-up call for both him and his parents. I apologized to my mother but asserted that I cannot sacrifice my business for this unjust situation. So, am I the asshole in this situation? Wow, that really sucks that you had to go through all of that because of this guy. It's definitely not fair that he's spreading false rumors about you and affecting your business. I think you're doing the right thing by taking legal action and standing up for yourself. Coworker picked on me every day, so I made him cry. A couple of years ago, when I was 21 years old, I was working at a store that also offered services. We had a shop in the back with 2 technicians. I have always been someone who can handle most teasing and get along with people easily, but there is a limit to how much I can take before reaching a breaking point. And that's exactly what happened with this guy who never knew when to stop. He was like a grown man with the mind of an 8-year-old. On top of that, he was terrible at his job, and just generally a bully to all of us, but particularly to me because I was the only one who tolerated it. He would constantly sneak up on me at my desk and poke me in the ribs, causing me to jump and sometimes hurt my neck. I would uncomfortably laugh it off, trying not to be rude, but he just didn't understand social cues, no matter how much I tried to make it clear. He would jokingly punch me, refuse when I asked him to do something, and just make work unnecessarily difficult. He thought he was being funny, but it was incredibly annoying. I had asked him numerous times to stop, but he ignored me. One time, when I was in a bad mood, I told him to grow up and stop touching me all the time. He just laughed and called me a little boy. The breaking point came when he came to the front and grabbed a staple out of the stapler, then started poking me with it. It actually broke my skin, and I was furious. But I held my composure and acted as if it was just another day, knowing that this was the limit. That night I talked to my dad about it, and he advised me to stand up for myself. So the next morning, I gathered all my anger and walked up to him at the punch clock. I told him that I liked him as a person, but if he continued to touch me and bother me after repeatedly asking him to stop, we were going to have a problem. He just laughed. This guy simply laughed. I lost control, raised my voice at him, which is completely unlike me. I let him know that I was dead serious and that I would bring it to management's attention if he didn't stop. I had enough of his behavior. His eyes filled with tears. It felt incredibly satisfying to finally stand up for myself and see this bully cry. He went and complained to the manager about how bad he felt and how he didn't want to lose his job, trying to save face. Needless to say, he never touched me again. However, a few months later, he was fired for being awful at his job and just a terrible person in general. In summary, my coworker pushed me to my breaking point by stabbing me with a staple, and I stood up for myself, making him cry like a baby. Damn, I can't believe you had to put up with that kind of behavior for so long. Good on you for standing up for yourself and not letting him get away with it. Sounds like he got what he deserved in the end. Am I the antagonist for going against my mom's wishes and talking to my family? I, a 16-year-old male, was caught talking to my paternal side of the family against my mom's wishes. My dad passed away when I was 6, and when I was 8, my mom remarried. At that time, my mom had only me, and her husband had 2 kids while they were expecting their first child together. I was closer to and knew my paternal family better, as my mom's family was absent. Things remained the same after my dad's passing, but when my mom remarried, things changed. My paternal family didn't want to include my mom's husband, his kids, or the new baby because they didn't consider them family. My mom disagreed and insisted that they accept all of us or none, emphasizing the need for equality. However, they claimed that I was their grandchild, not the other kids. As a result, my mom cut off contact with them and moved us to a different state where it would be harder for grandparents to assert their rights, which turned out to be true since she fought to ensure they had no rights over me. I secretly kept my grandparents' phone numbers so that I could keep in touch with them once I had my own phone, without my mom finding out. By the time I turned 11 and had my own phone, I re-established contact with my entire paternal side. We talked frequently, and I expressed my desire to move back and reconnect with them as soon as I was old enough. My mom and her husband never knew about this, but they still harbored resentment towards my paternal family for rejecting the idea of equality. Unfortunately, last month, one of my step-siblings overheard me talking to my grandparents on the phone and informed their dad, who then told my mom. This caused a major conflict, and I faced significant consequences. Luckily, I had stored the numbers in a different place, so even if I was discovered, my mom couldn't prevent me from having that information for my family. As a punishment, I was grounded for 2 weeks, and later, my mom and her husband confronted me about my secretive behavior. My mom pointed out that it hurt my step-siblings' feelings to see me sneaking around with people who rejected them and didn't accept them into the family. She believed that I shouldn't be okay with my siblings being treated as lesser just because they weren't related to my grandparents or extended family. However, I explained that it made sense to me, considering they had no relation to my dad's family, and my dad wasn't part of the new family my mom created. I noted that it would be different if it were her family, but my paternal family is tied to my dad. In response, my mom claimed that by doing this, I had chosen my paternal family over my immediate family. I admitted that I had made that choice and that I would do it again. I also mentioned that I was only a few years away from being able to move back home and be closer to my family, seeing them more frequently. This infuriated her husband to the point where he seemed on the verge of exploding, claiming that his kids thought highly of me and would be devastated to learn that I didn't care about their feelings. My mom called me disrespectful and made a big deal about me going behind her back. So, am I the asshole? It's understandable that you have a strong connection to your paternal family since you grew up close to them, especially after losing your dad at a young age. Your mom should respect your feelings and desire to maintain a relationship with them, even if it's different from her own family dynamics. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.